Welcome to TST Broadcasting. This is Shep Altshuler, publisher of TimeSharing Today. On this program, we are being joined by Alex Krakovsky, managing member of Lemonjuice Capital. We will be discussing the mind-boggling events that led to the indictment of the Provincetown, Massachusetts Harbor Hill Timeshare Resort's general manager, who was indicted for allegedly misappropriating an astounding $1.8 million from the resort's coffers. The mismanagement by the board of directors that resulted in the bankruptcy filing of Harbor Hill's Owners Association, and the convoluted process of concluding a sale of the property to the municipality of Provincetown. So now let's welcome Alex Krakovsky. Hi, Alex. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Shep. Good to be here.
The story of the Harbor Hill timeshare property up in Provincetown is kind of intriguing. It's got all the different elements of crime. It's got all the different elements of mismanagement. It's got all the different elements of a lot of different things that didn't bode well for the owners. So take us through the situation, a little bit of the background of Harbor Hill, how you became involved in the situation there through Lemonjuice Capital, and then where that resort is now. It's on the verge of being transitioned into a completely different type of property. So why don't you just provide that information to us?
Well, Harbor Hill was a pretty vibrant timeshare resort in Provincetown, Massachusetts, but the board took their attention off the management, and the manager was pretty much allowed to do anything she wanted, and allegedly she mismanaged and misappropriated some funds of the association.
My understanding is that the resort general manager misappropriated $1.8 million from the resort. And I do believe she was indicted. Is that correct?
She was indicted, but the bottom line is there was a lot of things out of order, and on August 30th, 2016, Harbor Hill Association ran out of money to operate, and they decided to shut down and file for bankruptcy.
Now, what type of bankruptcy was that filing for?
Well, they filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is basically the end of operation and liquidation. But what's important to note is that it is the association that can file for bankruptcy, not the entire condominium or timeshare structure.
So the property came under the jurisdiction of a receiver whose objective was to do exactly what?
This is where it became interesting, because the bankruptcy trustee actually, his job is to wind down operation of when a business comes under his jurisdiction. His job is to wind down operations and liquidate assets of that business. In the case of a timeshare association or a condominium association, it gets a little hairy. The reason it gets hairy is that there is little understanding where the association ends, and the property that is owned by the owners of that property, in other words, timeshare owners of Harbor Hill, actually own the property, not the association. And where that begins, it's a very common misconception, and both in the lay world and the legal world, that the association, the owners association, owns the property, and that is not the case.
Did that create some kind of a dilemma in the process of trying to wind down the property and repurpose it? Because there was a buyer. The municipality of Provincetown was a ready and willing buyer to jump in. So where did things go wrong, and then how did you get involved to help straighten out the situation?
Well, the dilemma came out like this. Yes, there were buyers for the property. One of the buyers was, and eventually became a successful buyer, was the municipality. However, the bankruptcy filing claimed that the property belongs to the timeshare association and therefore should be sold through the bankruptcy court. And that was not correct. That would have created multiple problems. First of all, it would have created problems for the city because it would never have gotten clear title. Or whoever the buyer was would have never gotten a clear title. And so the settlement would have eventually failed. And second, it would have created problems for the owners because they would have been made liable for many things for which they should not be liable, because they should not be necessarily responsible for all of the debts, for all of the issues of the timeshare association. Clearly, the asset, the building, is worth a lot more than the debts of the association, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they should go to cover it because, like I said, the asset does not belong to the association.
So you decided to jump in and play an active role.
Yeah, so I decided to jump in and file an objection in bankruptcy court. And, although there was a lot of legal, writing, the bottom line was the estate, okay, which is the association, does not own the building. So the building would need to be sold not through the bankruptcy process. The building would need to be sold through an ownership process. It's the owners, in fact, if the owners wanted to change their timeshare condo declaration and say, look, we have a new association that's not Harbor Hill at Provincetown, but Owners Association of Harbor Hill, Inc., they could do that, and then they could have continued as a timeshare association. Basically, it was the owner's choice, and the owners would have to first go through the proper procedures of their own, through the Massachusetts real estate law, to decide to sell that property and do so. Okay, and only then the association would get whatever their share of that, and then the association could close things out with their creditors. That was the correct way of doing it, and the bankruptcy judge agreed.
So now we're through the process. This property is poised to be transitioned to the new owner, and because of your objection, the actual owners, the timeshare owners, ended up in a better position than they were in when this whole thing first started. So just tell us exactly where the resort is, how the repurposing is taking place, and how the owners are benefiting from your involvement.
The buyer still turned out to be the city of the property. But keep in mind that the buyer was, although the buyer went through the bidding process, the buyer was ultimately chosen by the owners. The owners had to agree. Settlement happened yesterday, in fact, and the owners should be getting distributions directly from the settlement. They're basically protected from whatever else could have happened or whatever other claims could have been made against the association that were beyond the liability of the owners.
Now, when property is sold, there are costs associated with it. The receiver gets money for his services. But the owners were eligible, I guess, to receive some proceeds out of this. Will actually get some checks. Do you have any idea what that might amount to on a per-owner basis?
The owners should receive about $6,000 each. Could be plus or minus depending on the final math.
Now, do you know offhand approximately how many owners were impacted by this?
From what I understand, there were about 2,000 owners that remained for the distribution. What's important about this particular property in this particular case is that really the owners should have been obstructed from the bankruptcy process a lot more. Although we won and we said that, the property is not part of the bankruptcy estate and should be treated separately, there were still a lot of administrative costs and the bankruptcy trustee fee that was charged against it. Okay, that really, if the process was managed and controlled actively from the beginning, that would not have had to happen.
Okay, now, Alex, this is a very interesting case. There are other resorts out there that have gone into bankruptcy. The associations have filed bankruptcy. There are other resorts that are facing challenges. But if any of our listeners want to find out more about the process that Harbor Hill went through and would like to get more information from you about how you helped engineer a successful outcome for the owners, or how you helped manage a successful outcome for the owners, how would they go about getting in touch with you?
I think any property that has even potential of going through a distress kind of situation should really think ahead what happens if bankruptcy looms, and how to protect the owners in advance instead of being caught in without having control of whatever the lawyers are going to do once the bankruptcy is filed. So I would be happy to talk to these boards and or to owners for that matter and provide some information how to protect themselves better. The best way is to either call me at 240-561-9389, which is my office phone number, or email at alex@lemonjuice.biz.
Well, thank you, Alex. We appreciate your participation and for your actually being an advocate for owners in these transitionary situations.
Thank you, Shep.
And this concludes this program on TST Broadcasting. You know, at TimeSharing Today, your opinion really does count. Be sure to stay in touch with us on Facebook and by email at staff@tstoday.com.